Hello and welcome to Magic is Essential Radio. This is Unabashedly Resolute Podcast, and I'm your host, Wes Mullins. We're going to dive into some topics about health and wellness, apologetics, some politics. Who knows what we'll get into? We'll talk about life, and we'll talk about love. We're going to talk about the whole gambit of the human experience. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready. Here we go. All right, guys. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unabashedly Resolute. I'm here with some special guests. Come on, get close to the microphone.
Hello.
Who is it?
My name is Eliana. And I'm Alex.
All right. It is Alex and Eliana. My beautiful children are special guests today. All right, guys, when I ask you a specific question, I'll need you to stand up and come toward the microphone, all right? Today, we're going to talk a little bit about politics because guess what tomorrow is?
Election Day.
Election Day, all right. And Election Day, what happens?
People vote. People vote.
That's right, people vote. And who are they voting for in this midterm election, do you know?
Andy Barr and Amy McGrath.
Those are the two big candidates we have here in the state of Kentucky. It is going to be for a seat in the House of Representatives, and Amy McGrath is an independent, and we'll have Andy Barr is the conservative Republican. All right, so, guys, to get started, what is your take, really quickly, now, this is not coming any influence from me, but what do you guys think who we should vote for? Eliana?
Andy Barr.
Well, you have to say why.
Because Amy McGrath said the wall was stupid.
Okay, I'm not sure that we picked up that. So, Alex, I'll have you step back just a little bit. Step back. Step back. Eliana, come closer to the mic. Okay, now say your piece.
What did I say?
Who do you think we should vote for tomorrow?
I think it's Andy Barr because I disagree with Amy McGrath in a lot of places.
All right, you got there. She disagrees with Amy McGrath in lots of places. She's our political pundit for the night. All right, Alexander, what's your take on this?
I have to say that Amy McGrath is the best because she believes that the other government people believe on scaring you.
Okay, so Alex's take on this is Amy McGrath thinks Andy Barr is using scare tactics and trying to scare voters into voting for him, which this does happen in the political season. There are lots of scare tactics being done. People will pull up things like, if you don't vote for this, you're going to take your Medicare away, their Medicaid away. If you don't do this, they're going to, if you don't build a wall, illegals are going to come in. So everybody uses a little bit of a scare tactic because, well, guess what, guys? The future is unknown. We don't know the future. So we're trying to hedge our bets. An election, guys, is risk management in a sense. We're trying to manage the fallout from a bad choice or the benefits of making a really, really good choice. So how do you guys think that we should go about making our decision, Eliana?
Try to be just wise.
Try to be wise. Alex, what's your take on how to make a good decision?
Mine is to look on both sides.
All right. Alex is pointing to the open mind. Eliana is saying to be wise, to use wisdom, to use discernment. All right. I think that is fantastic. Now I want to get to a question, guys, because in this house we love the Constitution. We love America. We love the Revolution, as in the Revolutionary War. We're a little bit of history people here. And so I want to ask each of my special guests here, Eliana Mullins and Alexander Mullins, who are some of your favorite founding figures of America. And what are their names and what do you like about them? Eliana, you're up first.
I like Alexander Hamilton because he was very brave to go into the war and to face Burr.
All right. Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton. Can you sing it? Can you sing it?
I don't want to.
Well, you don't want to sing it? All right. I want you guys to get up from your chairs, push your chairs back. I want you guys just to stand. This will be much easier if you're standing. And just get close to the mic. Okay? Both of you gather around the mic here. Okay. Alex, who is one of your favorite founding fathers, and why?
George Washington, because he always looked on what the court says.
George Washington, because he always looked on what the court says. Now, which court is that?
I don't really know which one, but
The Supreme Court?
probably.
Eliana, who else do you like? She doesn't know. She's giving me the cut sim. Like, I don't know anybody else. Who did we visit when we were in D.C.? Whose house do you like? T.J.? Do you like Thomas Jefferson? George Washington?
Well, he just said George Washington.
Yeah, that's fine. You can like George Washington as well.
I like George Washington because he was very brave.
So Eliana's theme here is bravery. If you're brave, she likes you. She likes people who are brave. So she liked Alexander Hamilton because he was brave to fight Aaron Burr, and then George Washington was brave, and Alex likes him because he was very judicious, and he liked structure and organization, didn't he? George Washington, these guys were geniuses. They were just outright absolute geniuses, all of them. Thomas Jefferson, all the way, Alexander Hamilton, even Aaron Burr. These guys were just brilliant, brilliant minds that all came together at one point. We're even watching a series now called John Adams, and I didn't realize, I thought John Adams was a throwaway guy. He was very instrumental in the Declaration of Independence. Did not know that. All right, Eliana, what is one job that you want more than any job right now?
I want to be the president.
She wants to be the president of the United States. What's the one little snag?
I was born from a different country.
She was born in a different country. What country is that?
Ethiopia.
What? My children are from Ethiopia. I did not know that.
Yes, you did.
What? Nobody told me. No, Alex.
What is it called when somebody has a hammer? The guy. World.
Construction?
No.
Oh, a judge?
Oh, yes. I would like to be a judge.
All right. So Eliana wants to be the president of the United States, and Alexander may well be the Supreme. Oh, that would be a good job. Supreme Court Chief Justice. Alexander Mullins. Alexander Mullins. His name is Alexander Mullins. No, I am very proud of my children's Ethiopian heritage. They are amazing. Ethiopia, if you didn't know, was one of the few African countries to have never been occupied by a foreign power. They are extremely proud of this. They are a proud people. They are a brave people, which is why I think the theme of bravery for Eliana is just fantastic. So we have these guys getting ready to go to bed, but I'd like to ask them one more question apiece. And that question is, which founding father, which person in the Revolutionary War would you most like to talk to, and what question would you ask them? Alexander, go first.
I would ask Alexander Hamilton. My question would be, what gave you the courage to go to the war?
That's a great question. What gave you the courage to go to the war? Because most people don't really want to go to the war. Eliana?
I would be Alexander Hamilton too because what I have been wondering is why would he break the rules and go do a secret battle with Aaron Burr?
Oh yeah, she's mentioning that when General Lee began to throw shade at General Washington after he got fired, Alexander Hamilton wouldn't let it stand because it was hurting the war efforts. It was hurting recruitment because General Lee was saying how that they were going to lose and that Washington was not qualified to lead. And so Hamilton, on the direct order not to, Washington says, do not engage, got one of his buddies to go engage Lee in a duel. That's what you're talking about, Eliana, in that one? Yeah. But Alexander Hamilton was the second in that. He wasn't the actual shooter in that one. It was the only one with Burr. He was the actual one that shot. Because guess what he's not going to do? I'm not going to throw away my shot. I'm not going to throw away my shot. I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not going to throw away my shot. She's looking embarrassed. This is great. I have a snapshot into teenage years when her daddy embarrasses her all the time by singing in public.
You're not going to embarrass me.
She said I'm not going to embarrass her, and that's great. All right, kiddos, it is time for bed. Thank you so much for having a special guest on. Is there anything you'd like, any kind of parting wisdom you'd like to give the audience? Anything you'd like to say to them? Alex, you can sign off first. So I want you to give your parting words and then say goodnight.
Always never give up, and good night.
I just want to say to every kid in the world, you can be what you want to be.
You can be what you want to be. That is awesome. All right, let me rearrange here. And let's get on with some other things. Going to go back to the voting. We vote tomorrow, Election Day. After I take a sip of my Young Living drink, it is 2 drops of lemon, 2 drops of thieves, a drop of peppermint, and a drop of clove, and half teaspoon of sea salt mixed with hot water, boiling hot water, served in a glass. It's a fantastic drink. And it gives you all the health preventative measures that you need for the day. And the peppermint actually gives you a bit of a pickup. So, after a gorgeous drink of that, so good. And if you don't like that, you can actually use honey instead of the salt. Because some people don't like the salt. I happen to like the salt. But let's talk about politics just for a second. You know, it was Alexander Hamilton who said that whether in religion or in politics, forcing your constituents, forcing or proselytizing by beating people with either fear or with a sword doesn't really get you true converts. You know, it doesn't really help solidify and get rid of the thing you're trying to get rid of. I'm butchering the phrase. But the whole thing is that if you proselytize by fear, which one of the kids brought up, fear-mongering, if you proselytize by fear or by force, you are not going to eradicate your opposition. That's what he said. You're not going to eradicate your opposition, whether it's in religion or whether it's in politics. Because the more you try to fight and annihilate a position, is the more that position is going to get in a resistance. If you remember in Hunger Games, I think it was in the first Hunger Games, when President Snow said to the game master that a little bit of hope is good, but a lot of hope is dangerous, right? And so by constantly coming against something, you're going to create an opposition for that. So fear and force are no way to proselytize people to come over to your side. And it's no way to try to eradicate a position that you disagree with. I think in America right now, we have this notion that if we just know the right things, if we just know the right phrases, if we just have the right thinking, then we will be able, if we have the right education, then we can eradicate all of these fringe elements. And the problem is you can't. And if you try to go at them with force, like Antifa is doing, out with people who have differing opinions with conservatives, and they have shout-down matches and marches, and have actually started being, attacking people and being violent. You're never going to stop the opposition. The opposition is never going to say, "Oh, I'm scared. I've had enough." Think about in a Marvel movie, in the what is it? I think it is actually in the first Avengers movie, when a Loki comes and tells everybody to bow, and he starts speaking, and the Jewish gentleman stands up, and he says, "I've heard this before. I've heard this when basically when Hitler was in Germany. I heard this same thing," and Loki said, "I'm no man," and he goes, "There's no man like me," and the old man simply looked at him and says, "There are always men like you. There are always men like you," and that's the truth. There are always going to be people who are going to disagree with you, and there's always going to be people who would take advantage of that and try to beat down whatever is actually good in this world. And I think it was Jen Gillette, who from Penn and Teller, he said that this may be the first time in history that we have too much information and too much food. He said basically for the last 10,000 years, the problem for humanity has been too little information and too little food. But now we have an overabundance of information and overabundance of food. And it's true. You're more likely to die from obesity or from an accident than you are from war or famine or any of the other pestilence things that have plagued men for millennia. It's one of the safest times in the world. It doesn't feel like it's the safest time in the world, but it is the safest time in the world. And sorry, if you thought I was going to talk about specific candidates, I'm not. I'm talking about the voting in general. I'm talking about politics in general. And what I loved, and I said this a few days ago, but it was listening to the Ben Shapiro show, and one of his guests, Andrew Klavan, says that politics is the opposite of thought. Because in the two-party system, and as in most systems, you're asked to choose a side. And you have to choose a side. But here's the thing. The thinking man can't choose a side. The rational person can't choose a side because one side says you have to accept us completely and fully, but I don't like that. I don't like what you're doing there. They're like, yeah, but you have to hold your nose because you have to vote with us. If you like Trump, we've done away with you. You're a conservative. But if you don't like, if you liked Hillary, then you're on the other side. And so you're made to make a choice on all the issues, on guns, on abortion, on taxes, on healthcare. Every single thing we are divided. It's like it's a binary choice. It's a binary choice. It's A or B. It's A or B. It's A or B. That actually is a false dichotomy. There's not just A or B. It's a logical fallacy to say that you're either Democrat or you're Republican. I know we have independents now, but the independents haven't made a huge dent. There hasn't been a third party since Lincoln that has come in to make any impact in the American way. It's been simply a binary system. And for this last election, I will tell you that my wife and I voted neither for Hillary nor did we vote for Trump. And we didn't because we couldn't trust either one. We didn't feel like we could trust either one. And so we voted principle over party. Now, some people may get upset with that. You can do, I know all the arguments behind it, and I'm not looking for an argument. I'm not looking for you to critique my voting. I'm just being honest with you and saying that's how we voted. And we voted principle. We voted with someone who said, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, and this is what I stand for. And I'm voting for principle because we vote for party so much. George Washington said a two-party system would be the ruination of the republic. And it's kind of, it's 300 years later, so we've made it a long way, but it's become this huge issue and topic of this two-party system and how it's the opposite of thinking. It's the opposite of thought, because we are demanded to take a side. If you don't agree with me, you're against me. And it's not true. And so I want to remind everyone, as we go out to the polls, you're probably listening to this podcast in the morning if you're listening to it on Tuesday morning. If you're going out to the polls, just remember, what are your principles? What do you stand for? If you don't know what you stand for, it's a good chance you'll fall for anything. And so you need to have that in your mind. Who am I? What do I stand for? Why is this important? You see, apologetics pops up again. The discipline or the tool belt of apologetics can be used here as well, because most political rhetoric is not the good kind of rhetoric. Because see, rhetoric in English language, rhetoric has a dual function, right? Rhetoric is a way for us to take something very complex and make it digestible to a mass number of people. Is to make it communicatable, or what they call duplicatable. Right? I make a statement. A meme is supposed to do the same thing. It takes something very complex and turns it down to very simple, so everyone can be in on the joke. Everyone can be in on what's going on. It's a way to take complicated things and simplify them. That's what rhetoric does, because it takes books on books on books on books of reading about a certain topic, and then an author is able to condense that down into a sentence or a paragraph. And that summary is an encapsulation of all the information they've had to comb through and they've had to analyze. And we then take hundreds of these statements from people that have similar statements, and then we condense those down into a statement. And in the end, we're condensing down, we're making rhetoric rhetorical. We're taking rhetorical statements and we're making them even simpler, because sometimes the rhetoric that is created is actually over people's heads. And so we want to make it condensed, and we want to make it to soundbite. We want that 30-second soundbite to go boom, 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 so that people can listen to it and hear it and go, oh, that's what it means, or that's what it means. So it does have a good side to it. If you can boil something down to the root of it and bring the essence, if you can bring the essence up in a short amount of time, you'll reach more people. Now, the negative side of this rhetoric is to veil or mask something, and to create and to misguide or misdirect people by covering or veiling a truth. So that's another way to make a rhetorical statement. Make rhetoric is to create something, and it's what you see in TV ads. They use all the logical fallacies to hide truth, not to illuminate truth. One rhetoric wants to illuminate truth, the other wants to snuff it out, wants to hide it under a bushel, if you will. And so what we see in the political realm a lot of times is we see the negative rhetoric. We see the misleading. And as you go out to vote, I want you to be thinking about that. If there's an ad on TV where they may say, well, this person is more left than any person on the left, or this person voted for this health bill and he wants to kill millions of people. Be wise. Like my daughter said, be wise as you're voting. You know that's not true. You know that these people who are our congressmen and our senators, you know they don't go with the intention of annihilating us and wiping us off the face of the earth. That's not their intention. They may have loyalties other than us. They may have loyalties to the lobbyist or to companies or to other constituents. They're not loyal to us as constituents. But their goal is not to see Americans suffer. Their goal is to alleviate suffering for a certain constituency. So know that if somebody cuts taxes, it's not just so the rich get rich and the poor get poor. It's because they are speaking to a part of their constituents who benefit from that. And that's okay. You don't have to demonize them. They're not trying to hurt people in particularly, right? You know, one of the coolest things that I learned about Capitol Hill was from my buddy Lou Phillips. And he said that he actually was on Capitol Hill for a while. And he says, being there, I found that everybody really wanted to do a good job, and everybody really went there in the right frame of mind to do what is right. But because it is politics and because it is messy and because you're dealing with personalities and you're dealing with complex issues, it doesn't always come away clean. Even though everyone wants to come away clean, it gets mucky and it gets messy. And so just think about that. If we stop demonizing people, if we stop, it's so lazy. It is so lazy to look at a person and to say, they said this, therefore they're this. It's too simple, guys. It's too simple. It's too easy. Life is not simple like that. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Even you figuring out what you're thinking and why you're thinking it, that's tough. So the thoughts you're having about the candidate, why do you think that? Have you ever stopped to think of why you think something? Why am I thinking this? What is this? Why am I thinking this? If you never stop to think that, then you're just using your reflexive brain, and it's all surface. And when we demonize people, guys, do you know how the Holocaust was started? Do you know how in the 20th century 120 million people, humans, died? It's because people with power and people before they got in power changed the parameters of what humans were. And if a human disagreed with them, they began to take those humans and dehumanize them. If you read any books on the Holocaust, the Nazis blamed the Jews for everything and called them rats and said they were vermin, that they were not human. If you dehumanize somebody, then the atrocities you can do to them are unlimited because they're not human. Do not look at the political people out there and cut them down. You don't know their lives. You don't know them as much as you feel like you know them, as much as you look at their voting record and say this. You don't know the intents. So how do you make a decision? You have to do it with your mind and with your heart, and you have to walk out there with a clean conscience and go, I don't know what this person stands for. I know what this person stands for. This lines up with my value system. I'm going to vote for them. But don't do it just because you hate the other person, because that hate will get inside of your heart, and that hate will cause bitterness to rise up, and you'll begin to hate other things, and it will grow into a massive orchard of hatred inside of you. And you will have to one day reckon with the harvest that's going to come, the harvest of bitterness that's going to come in your life, and it's not going to be pretty. Please do not demonize these people. They're humans, they have families, and they are trying to do the best they can. Are there liars and deceivers and cheats out there? Yes, they are, and they'll be found out. They don't get away with it. They don't get away with it. You know, C.S. Lewis says that people in certain positions have the same anger. One person might be in a position where the anger leads to the slaughter of thousands, and this person has the exact same anger, but he's not in a position to have any authority. And actually, his anger, the more he gets angry, the more he gets laughed at and ridiculed and mocked. But the black stain upon their heart is exactly the same. No one gets away. That's called justice. Now, if you are like me and you believe in God, then you believe that when people do things that are wrong, even though you may not see the justice happening, there will be a reckoning one day for that. And you don't need to hold them accountable because God will hold them accountable. We should hold people accountable. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you shouldn't go out of your way to store up hatred in your heart for someone, because God will get the reckoning on that. And it'll be far, far worse than anything that you could ever dream up. Because that kind of justice sometimes is actually separation from Him. And if you've ever been in love with someone and you know what separation does, separation is the worst kind of pain. Rejection is the worst kind of pain, right? Jesus, when He's doing the sheep and the goats, what does He say? Depart from me, I never knew you. Wow. Those are heavy words, aren't they? The Creator of the entire world looking and saying, I never knew you. You chose not to know me. We have no relationship. And that's heavy. That's heavy. So no one gets away with it. No one gets away with it. There will be reckoning for that. So do not waste your energy on time harboring up things in your hearts against political candidates. Because as we know in America, no matter if you think a political party is dead, they can rise again. They can rise up, and suddenly they have all three branches of government, and you're like, what in the world? I thought we were on a democratic socialist train going all the way to Moscow, but heck, it looks like we're on our way back to DC, and so it's this crazy thing. And again, God's in control. You do the best you can. You vote principle over party. And you don't allow hate to get in your heart. That is my encouragement to you today, is you vote your principles and that you do not let bitterness and hatred get in your heart against a political candidate. Even if they win, you need to pray for them. You need to pray for your enemies, and you need to seek out the good. It's the goodness of God that leads to repentance, and pray blessing on their life, and that God may use blessing even to cause them to change, if they need to change. It might be you who needs to change. Maybe you have a bad political philosophy, and your philosophy is really terrible, and through prayer you're going to find out that your philosophy was terrible, and you're like, oh wait, I was the one who was wrong. Oh, I'm really glad they got elected. See, that's the thing. Guys, our thoughts, they're not all winners. Okay, our thoughts, not all of our thoughts are amazing just because we have them. Some of our thoughts we have to let go and say, "Ooh, I was wrong on that one," and be willing to change, be willing to say, "I don't know," or be willing to be corrected. All right, that is all I have for today on the eve of the election. I hope you guys have a great day. Go out and vote tomorrow. Get your sticker. All right, guys, have a great night. Bye.